Welcome to the Garden of Favor podcast, where we are committed to cultivating lives and businesses God's way. Because when we do, we see the evidence of His favor. I'm warning you now. Be prepared. You might cry a little bit, and you might be tempted to shout a couple yeses and amens as we ask ourselves the tough questions and get honest with God about what He wants to do in us and through us for the kingdom. Hey, sister friend, I'm Heather, teacher turned six-figure corporate exec, turned top 1% network marketer, turned dream job, living my best life as a mindset strategist and kingdom blueprints coach for Christian entrepreneurs. I believe your life is like a garden, and your business plays a major role in fulfilling your purpose and calling. Are you ready to get your mindset and heart set in sync with the Father so you can bloom into all He's created you to be? Then let's grow, girl. Can you believe we are wrapping up 2021 this week? Oh my goodness, I have saved this episode for you because I know that there are some of you still holding on. You are still trying to be patient and waiting for the Lord to fulfill something that He's promised you. We've talked about this before that, sometimes you think you're waiting on the Lord, but the Lord's waiting on you. And there are other times where truly the Lord is asking you to seek Him with all your heart. And He promises when we seek Him with all of our heart, we will find Him. And in that requires patience. My client turned friend, sister in Christ, Malaika, is such a beautiful testimony of pressing in and being patient in waiting on the Lord to give her the next step and to fulfill His promises to her. And I pray that her testimony in this episode blesses you so much as you continue to lean in and really hold on to the promises the Lord has given you and trust His timing. Patience is a fruit of the Spirit, friend. And so I pray that you were blessed by the fruit that I have been able to have a front row seat witnessing in Malaika's life. And I pray that her testimony blesses you too.
Friends, I am so excited for today's episode as we are leaning into this new year, which we know is wrapped up in goals and new expectation and excitement of what the Lord is going to do. I could not help but think a perfect guest to bring on to the show today is a woman who I have had the pleasure of being able to watch her journey with the Lord, just really lean into Him and her calling. And the thing that He has done over the last couple months is just something that the world needs to hear about. So I want to invite my friend onto the show today, Malaika. Malaika, hello.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and a little nervous.
That's okay. That's okay. I have absolutely loved getting to know you, which as I was preparing for this, I thought, wait a second, where did we actually meet? How did we get connected? We've known each other for a few years.
Yeah, it's been a while. So, years ago, you had a YouTube channel where, I believe you still have your YouTube channel where you were just giving people training and instructions on their businesses from one of the businesses that you were in previously. And I was doing the same with a YouTube channel. And so I saw you there and you had mentioned your Facebook group. And at the time it was like Soul Sisters for God's Side Dream, something like that.
Yep. I remember that name.
So I joined the group because I was like, I like what she's saying. I like what she's doing. And I knew I wanted to be a part of it. So that's when I joined the group way back then.
Network marketing. Isn't it funny? And I think about that too. The Lord has showed me, He's redeemed in my own time with Him. He's like, yep, I didn't waste that season. And so that makes sense. So YouTube, speaking of YouTube, Malaika, you do have a YouTube channel that we saw some crazy, awesome success in. Tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about your YouTube journey.
Yeah, that was so interesting. And it had to be God having His foot in His hand all in it because it definitely wasn't me. So originally I did have a YouTube channel for my network marketing business at the time. And at the end of last year, I decided I wanted to start my weight loss journey and I wanted to document it for myself. And then I was hoping that it would also be an encouragement for others because I have to lose about 200 pounds total to be considered, a healthy weight and to do all the things that I need to do. And so I started the channel, and I was thinking that, if it got monetized, that would be great. I knew one of the requirements was 1,000 subscribers. And so one of the things I put on my vision board or my prayer board was to have 5,000 subscribers by the end of 2021. And so I just went along, creating my videos, and they also had this thing called Shorts, which is similar to TikToks or Reels on Instagram. And so I was like, oh, let me do this because I saw that you could get a few subscribers, by doing Shorts, and that would help me reach that milestone. So I did this short. It was probably the worst video I've done on the entire channel. It just wasn't anything. I just woke up one morning like, okay, let me do this. So I did it. I posted it. And a couple weeks after I posted it, all of a sudden it just started taking off, and the numbers of subscribers just started coming in. And it's so funny because I went from like less than 100 subscribers to thousands.
Wow.
And now it's amazing. Now the channel is over 60,000 subscribers on the channel. And like I said, that, was nothing but God. And I have to say, though, what he showed me through that is the numbers really don't mean anything. Like sometimes people say it's vanity metrics, and I don't mean that they don't mean anything, because they do still represent people. But I wanted the numbers, but he was showing me like, okay, here you go. Here's the numbers. But just, keep doing what I have you doing, because even if I'm only impacting one and that message is getting in front of one, the one that he wants me to have it in front of, that's what really matters. So it wasn't about, so that was so interesting. He brought all the numbers and way more than what I expected.
You asked for 5,000. He's like, oh, let me one up you. Or
right.
10x that. I love that. And when you're talking, there's something, so when I'm doing coaching calls with women, and oftentimes there's this like similar message that the Lord is weaving in it. And I know it's for them, but I also know it's for me. And what I hear and what you're even saying was like, yes, it's a step versus steps. And I think as entrepreneurs, we want to know all the steps, whether it's we're being a control freak, or we don't trust, or we feel like we're not prepared enough, or we're not good enough. And so we want to seek out all the steps. And what I hear is that you heard, I'm going to do this YouTube channel. I don't really know how. I don't really know what, but I'm going to take the step and trust that God's going to guide my steps. And look what he did. So right. I love that. Well, okay. So how did you get into, so it's really vulnerable. I mean, I was a Beachbody coach for 3 years, and no matter how much weight you have to lose or whatever it is, health is vulnerable, and it really opens you up to just, I don't know, to me, it's some of the most intimate, deepest parts of my heart. And I know that it's such a big topic for other people. And so as we're coming into the new year and health is such a huge part, talk a little bit, can you share a little bit about the spiritual side of health and then that physical side of health? Maybe just a little bit of that for your journey.
Yeah. So for me anyway, one of the reasons that I wanted to get healthy was for the Lord and for what he has for me, because I knew that he has a purpose for me and a calling. And in order for me to fulfill that, I needed to have the energy and the stamina to be able to fulfill that. And also, I have 4 children, so I wanted to make sure that I have the health and the energy and stamina that I need for them as well. So, it was really important for me to really start taking a hold of, okay, if I'm going to be doing what the Lord wants me to do in this next part of my life, instead of just what I want to do, I need to make sure I'm at the level I need to be to do that for him. So I wanted to make sure that I was doing it for myself. And then, like I also mentioned, being an example for other people that, hey, even though we may have not done it previously, we can get it together and do it now and make this next, our latter days better than our former.
Amen.
So that,
best is yet to come.
We can fulfill it. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, another thing I think a lot of women who listen to this show have done network marketing. And as we talked about, that's really how we connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think one of the times that we were able to work together, and you were in one of the group coaching programs that I was running, was that like transition season of network marketing. God, is this what because you had some really good success in that profession. Can you talk a little bit about that transition season and that maybe even that wrestling? Because I just find that a lot of women who are in network marketing, they see the potential, they see how God can use them in that industry and in their teams and, all the things. But there's something I feel in most people that God starts to stir something else that whether it's getting rid of the network marketing or adding to. Can you just tell a little bit about that journey? Because I think so many people will relate to that. And I got to see the beautiful journey behind the scenes. And now I'm starting to see it all come to fruition on this side. But I think, the stuff that other people don't see, can you maybe just talk a little bit to that?
Sure. Yeah. So I have been in and out of network marketing for years and years. So, so the last business though that I was in, I was like, this is it. This is the business. I loved it. With me, normally I will get bored with something in about 6 months. And this particular business, a year had come around. I was still excited. So I'm like, well, this is it. This is this is the one. And so I was there for about 4 years, and you could not tell me that I would not be in that business until the day I died. Like I was diehard. I'm in it. I'm doing this. I'm reaching the top, all the things. And all of a sudden, in November, God started shifting my heart. And I just felt that for whatever reason, I'm like, I don't think this is it anymore. Like I started feeling myself leaning towards maybe there's something else. Maybe God wants me to do something else. And I have to tell you, before that happened, it was months before I had actually gotten a word from a prophet, and he was telling me that, God was going to use me in other ways, like outside of this business. And I got mad that he said that because that's how much I was like, no, this is the business, and then there's another woman in my life that's in ministry, and she gave me a word saying basically the same thing, that God was going to have 2 other businesses for me that weren't going to be this particular business. And he was going to use those, for his purpose and like to create prosperity for me. And anyway, so again, I was just like, Lord, what is going on? Like, this is what I want to do. This
I like that word. Take that back. Take that back.
Right. Like, was that really you? And so,
or is that, and that, you know what though, but that is such a good question, yeah. Whether it's from somebody else or our own thoughts, that is one of the most common things I think I hear women say. God, was that you or was that me? Is that you or is that the enemy? And so wrestling between that, are we hearing really what you're saying? So yeah, keep going. Cause this, I think we all can relate to, wait a second. Wait, what's going on? Like you're feeling that change that he's doing inside.
Yes. And so, basically that was confirmation for, what was happening and what was coming up. And so, I just started feeling this shift in my heart. And then also I started seeing changes in my business as well. And so, I knew at that time, like, okay, Lord, I feel you telling me it's time to shift away from this business, but what am I going to do? And I really didn't know for a few months. At that same time, that's when I had started the weight loss YouTube channel, when I was trying to figure out what I was supposed to do and, where he wanted me to go, but not knowing that was, like you said, a step into what was coming. And it was just really, he was changing my heart so that I could let that business go. And I was able to just release it and say, I know that whatever he has for me is going to be better than what I have for me. So I need to just go ahead and let it go and trust him that what's to come is going to be greater.
Okay. So tell us, I love that, because I think so often my mom gave me this advice years and years ago when I was in a relationship, and I knew in my heart, like, this wasn't the man that God had for me, but I could justify it with logic and, well, he's a really good guy and he's really cute and all these things. And so this is even something we talked about the other day in the masterclass, the Made to Flow. It's, you got to forget logic. Cause you making money, that you're providing for your family, the Lord's blessing you. Like, why would you have me change? Why would you have me pivot? Like, there's nothing wrong with this. I used to love this, but logic will keep us stuck. Whereas wisdom, when we tap into the spirit of the Lord that is living inside of us to know, no, like, trust me. And so my mom always said, your heart leaves a lot sooner than your body, Heather, right? Your heart oftentimes decides and knows the truth, but it takes a little bit longer for your body to catch up. That has stuck with me for years. And I feel like that's exactly what you're like. Oh, okay. What I love about you is that when I think about you, I see such patience. Maybe you don't, I don't know if you feel that you're patient, but as I watched you, I knew the Lord was doing something in you. And in this middle of this transition, just like this cocoon, like he had you kind of wrapped up, and it was like, you're kind of wiggling, like, what is this? Trying to get out of that chrysalis. Like, what are you doing, God? But I saw you do it, even though it was a transition and you were wrestling. I feel like you did it with such grace and such expectation that you knew that you knew that you knew. You didn't know, but you knew that you knew that you knew that it was going to be good. So can you tell us a little bit about where the Lord has brought you from that, not knowing that you were going to be doing something different, and that love that you used to have was transitioning into something else, into where did he lead you? And not so much to where he has you today, because that's like the next level. But when you knew what it was and you knew there was another step, tell us a little bit about that.
So I just, like you said, I just was being patient, and I knew, like, if he said to leave, then he was going to bring something else along, even though I had no clue at the time what that would be. And it's so funny because I was just, going along day to day, and actually one of the women that are in your group had posted a picture on Facebook, and the picture came up through my news feed, and she was wearing a shirt of a company, and it reminded me, like, wait a minute, that was something that I wanted to do years ago. And so it brought it back to the forefront of my mind, and that ended up leading me into getting my certification for group fitness, a fitness instructor certification. And it's funny because I had gotten the certification years ago, but at that time I never did anything with it because I just wasn't the person I am today. Like, I wasn't in a position where I felt that, because I was overweight at the time, but I felt like, who was going to want to follow me? Who was going to want to come to my class if they know that this is something I'm still dealing with and still struggling with? And so I never did anything with it. And it's so funny how God works in us, because now here I am doing the same. I have the same certification, but I'm in a place where I'm like, here's my story. This is where I'm at. This is what I'm doing. Let's do it together, instead of worrying about, well, they're not going to want to do it with me because I'm, in this position and still on my journey. But I'm at this point now where I'm like, well, let's journey together. Let's do this together and get to where we want to be. So it's so funny too how God, shifts our mind, renews our mind.
Yes.
so that we can do the things that we need to do, and again, not worry about what people are going to say, but Lord, this is what you have for me to do, so I'm going to worry about what you are saying about what I'm supposed to be doing.
I love that. So I hear two things when you're talking. One, remnant. I think this is really key for this season of life. So you need to listen to this. Malaika, what you shared was there was something that God had started in you years ago that kind of took the back seat. Maybe you forgot about it. It just got, whether or not, I think a lot of the times, at least, whether it was you were distracted or whether the Lord said, put that on pause on purpose, right? Sometimes it's us. Sometimes it's God. Like, he plants these seeds, remnants. What what can you go back and say, wait a second, there was something that the Lord was telling me or stirring in me before that he wants you to go back and like pick that thing up and plant it in this new season. Another thing, as you were talking, like, yes, someone needs to hear this. The seeds that you planted long ago, they're going to bloom. They are going to bloom. That God wastes nothing. And whether it's by our own doing or just God's timing, right? That God saw the seeds that you planted, and that if you continue to water them, and that's really why I have just loved watching you be so patient. And in that patience, though, you kept doing something. I think sometimes when we think rest, we think take a nap, slow down, stop, don't do anything. But what you did was you started to work on yourself. You worked on yourself before you were working on a business or trying to figure out something. You were like, let me just focus on myself. And through that, the Lord led you to find something else that you had done, that you had a passion for, and then resurface that. So tell us a little bit about, okay, well, now that you found out, you remember, you were like, oh, wait a second. And then what did you do? What did you do when you were realizing that the Lord was calling you back to something?
So that's when, I really decided I needed to sit down and, get with him and decide, okay, Lord, is this the thing that you have for me? Because I didn't want to get into something else and then find out like, no, this isn't where I wanted you. And, have him lead me out of that again. So I took some time, and one of the things on my vision board is to spend quiet time with God first thing in the morning. And that's something too that through the group coaching program, you had talked about like having, that time with God every day. And so I really focused on that. And so I would have my quiet time with God first thing in the morning. And so he was confirming for me, yes, this is where I want you to go. And, this is the path that I want you to take. And so through that, I started working on, my health certification. My group fitness certification. I got that. The shirt that I saw was actually for a company, Refit. And that was, like I said, years ago, a certification that I saw for a specific fitness format. And so I got that certification. I had actually done some coaching with you, and we were setting up like a plan to get the business started. And so I decided that I was going to launch in July, and I launched the business. It went okay. It wasn't spectacular, but it was okay. But I still was trusting, like you said, being patient and trusting God that if this is where he wants me, it's going to happen. And I was having classes for about a month and a half or so, and I felt the Lord telling me to stop. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I already put down my other business. I don't have an income right now coming in, from the business previously. And I'm just starting this business, and already I need to stop doing this.
Plot twist.
Right. And so I was like, okay, Lord, because like I was saying, I want to make sure I'm moving in step with him, moving forward. I'm flowing with him. And so I was like, okay, and to be honest, I was really scared about telling people that I was stopping because again, I was like, well, what are people going to think? They're going to be like, here she goes again, starting a business, stopping a business, but I had decided that moving forward, I was going to care less about what people think and more about what he thought, as I mentioned before. And so I was like, okay, if God's telling me to do this, there's a reason. So I went ahead and I stopped my classes, and I had no clue when I was going to restart, but I had a feeling he was telling me, yes, this is what I wanted you to do, but now wasn't the time. It wasn't the time yet. And especially with other businesses before, if I have a goal, I like to make out the plan and the strategy and all the things. And so that's what I had started doing with this. And so I felt like me starting the classes was me doing it when I wanted, but it wasn't, his time yet. It wasn't his timing. So I paused the classes, and I had a feeling that he was going to have me restart somewhere around November, December, but I wasn't sure. But that was just, kind of what I felt my heart telling me. yeah, so I stopped and I wasn't posting on social media. I was just kind of in this waiting period, like, okay, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I did, during that time, I believe he was showing me another business, and it's something that the two can still work together. But one, it's a digital business, and so it was creating digital weight loss planners. And so I was working on that during that time that I wasn't having classes, and at the same time praying to him, okay, Lord, if I'm doing these two businesses, how am I going to do both of them together? Because they both are going to require a lot of my time, etc. And I just felt that he was just telling me, don't worry, don't worry about it. It's going to all work out. But one of the other things that I know for me is that I needed to develop better time management. And I really believe that in the season that he has me in right now is something where he's going to grow that area for me, or not for me, but with me. He's going to grow me in that area, because whatever my future calling is that he has for me, I believe I'm going to need to be better at managing my time and scheduling. So anyway, so yeah, I was in this waiting season for this fitness business and working on the digital business in that time.
I love that. And yes, there's so many things you said. I'm like, yes, yes, yes. And so this is something, a lot of the times when women come to me and they're like, okay, I want you to help me, whether it's transition or scale or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I hope she doesn't get mad at me. I hope she doesn't think this is me. But what oftentimes the Lord shows us is something completely different that doesn't necessarily look like it is going to impact our business or our bottom line or our financial, whatever, but it does, because the Lord is a God. He's a God of order. And so he doesn't want us to build on this shaky foundation. And so it's like, God wants to take you to this next level, but he's like, well, let's fix the foundation so that when I continue to add on it, you'll be able to handle this thing. And so I love that. And then the other thing you were talking about, I'm like, yes, again, your testimony, you've been really patient. You've continued to press into him during that and really surrender the need to know all the details. So that is actually my word for 2021 is surrender. I'm going to be having a episode specifically on that and like what that's looked like. But that literally is what you did, surrendering the need to know everything. So first of all, when the Lord gave me that word, I was not happy about it, but he gave me a definition to that. And that's what he told me was, Heather, surrender the need to know all the details. I have it figured out. Just do the next thing that I'm asking you to do and trust me. And that's literally what I hear that you did. So tell us, I just can't even. Just tell us, okay, then what did God do? You obeyed, you started to see that. Now you see kind of a crack in the foundation. He's having you fix that. Tell us now where the Lord has brought you to today. Truly, I think it's just like a miracle. I'm like, yes, Lord, I see it. Your patience and your work and your diligence paying off.
Mm-hmm. So one of the, like I mentioned, I felt like he was working on, developing, like me managing my time better. And so as I was sitting and waiting, I was working on, like I said, the digital business. I wasn't doing any classes. I wasn't really posting on social media or anything like that because I had nothing to post. I wasn't having any classes. So I was like, okay, Lord, how am I going to do this? Like, one of the things, so while I was waiting, I was watching YouTube videos and there were other fitness instructors and they were talking about how they got so many people in their classes from TikTok. So I was like, okay, so I'm going to download TikTok and I'm going to post a couple TikToks and, try to get people to come to my classes. And I think I posted maybe 2 and I felt the Lord telling me, nope, you're not going to do that. And so I deleted the app. And so I was like, okay, Lord, so what am I supposed to do here? I'm not posting. How am I going to get people in my class when I start classes back up? And I just felt that he was telling me that it was going to happen another way and he was going to do something different and do it do something that could only be in a way that was going to give him glory. And because with any of my other businesses, like I said, I would always try to map out the goals and the strategies and what I was going to do, not making room for him. And so with this particular business, I felt like this was going to be him doing it, not me, however it was going to happen. And so I was really struggling with, should I post? Should I not post? How often should I post? When should I post? 3 times a day? You know what I mean? All the things.
The should, the have, the need. I talk a lot about that, right?
Exactly.
We put that pressure on us instead of just letting it flow.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And one of the things you had said a while back that really gave me freedom in all of that was that God is bigger than the algorithm. And that was so freeing for me. And every time I start worrying about what I'm going to do, when, how I'm going to post this thing, I'm like, you know what? God's bigger than the algorithm.
Amen. Yes. Freedom.
Yes. And so I just felt the Holy Spirit tell me, well, when it's time, I just post and God will promote. So I didn't have to worry about the promotion. Just do, take the steps, do the things, do my videos, the weight loss channel, work on my digital business, and that God was going to promote what needed to be promoted. And so all of a sudden, randomly, I get this message from an old friend of mine that they were starting this ministry channel on Roku. And they didn't want it to be just preaching and teaching. They wanted to really have something that ministered to all areas of people's lives. And they had been watching my journey secretly, because I didn't know they were watching, but they were watching the journey and seeing how God was moving in my life and how I really wanted to inspire others to become their best selves. And they asked me to be a part of their channel. And so they wanted to have my exercise class on their channel weekly so that it could be another way to minister to people, but through the dance fitness.
Okay, I have Holy Spirit goosebumps. Come on now. Come on now. So you're trying, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and all those things, they're okay, right? The Lord can use those platforms. But the Lord's like, I'm going to take you to Roku. I'm going to put you on TV, right? Mm-hmm. Oh my goodness. When you shared that in our group, I was like, Malaika, what? Oh my goodness. And so I have to just say this because you never know who's watching.
Right.
But always, I did an episode about, but God sees everything. And so Malaika, I think you are such a true testimony that God will honor what you do in secret in public. Nobody knows all the stuff that you've done and the tears you've cried, probably the stress you've felt, the questions, the wrestling with the Lord. God, what are you doing? You told me to lay this business down. I did and start this. And then you tell me to stop that. I have children to feed. I have bills to pay. And so God's like, don't worry, I got you. And so your faith in that hidden stuff, right? The Lord's like, okay, now we're ready to elevate you. So tell us, how can we watch your videos, your fitness videos on Roku?
So yeah, it's on every Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And like you mentioned, it's on Roku. So if you have the streaming device, if you don't have the Roku device, you can also download the Roku app. And then the channel that I'm on, it's Winning in Prayer TV. So Winning in Prayer TV on Roku, 4 p.m. Eastern every Sunday.
Wow.
You can come dance with me for free.
How fun. Okay. And then how else can people get connected with you? Are you back on social? Is there any other way that you can help people, or where are you at now? Besides on TV on Roku.
So I actually felt released to start classes up again. And again, here it is around that time that I felt in my spirit around November, December time, that he was going to have me start things back up. And it's so amazing that it all just happened right around the same time as well. But so, classes are starting back up. And if you go to malaikaburley.com/classes, you'll see my schedule there. And so you can just register right there on the website for any classes that you want to join. And I actually am also on Facebook. I have a group, Transformation Tribe, and there's a million Transformation Tribes on Facebook. But if you search Malaika Burley, you'll get the right one. But I'm opening that group up right now until the end of the year because I really wanted to help people and support them on some of the goals that they may have coming up for the new year. So I wanted to open that group up. Normally it's just for the people that have the paid fitness memberships. But again, like I said, I wanted to be able to support other people as well. So that group is open right now so that anyone can join in. And then I'm on Facebook, Instagram, at Malaika Burley on those places.
And YouTube? Well. Is it Malaika Burley too?
Yes,
okay.
Malaika Burley YouTube, yes.
So y'all, if you want to be inspired by a spirit-led, Jesus-loving, just transparent, humble, really relatable sister, go connect with Malaika on all of the places. Another thing that I have to just mention is that I think the message of this is like, one, timing matters. Like trusting the Lord, even though it doesn't look the way that you thought it was going to, God's going to do more than you could ask or imagine. Be patient, right? And in the patience, keep pressing into him. But there's something else that you've said, and I love it because it flows so naturally. If you're like, God said, God told me no, God told me yes, God told me. That is another thing that I find that a lot of women I work with, they don't necessarily, they're struggling to hear from the Lord. And I think you already said what it was, is that you committed to spending quality time with him every day. And it doesn't have to be in the morning. For me, that just works the best. Like I personally like it that way, but you committed to that. And when you committed to that, that relationship with him strengthened, and you do. So God, I always say God's always speaking, but we're not always listening, and not so much. I don't think it's necessarily because we don't want to listen. I think it's because we're being distracted or really busy, or that we're just not carving out that time. And so, there's just so many, like you're just such an example that I don't think you're not trying, you're just sharing your testimony. And there's so many nuggets that I think we can learn from you, from your testimony. And so I am just so thankful to have been able to witness the behind the scenes and watch you literally bloom into this incredible woman. And so, any words of encouragement for the woman who you had mentioned you had like 200 pounds to lose in your journey, any words of encouragement for that woman who is just wrestling with her health?
So the one thing that I would say, and that I've been doing with my journey, is just taking it step by step. Because any progress is progress. And if I try to look at, I have 200 pounds to lose, that literally could take a few years for me to lose it all. And that would look very daunting to me. But just taking it step by step and celebrating the small wins along the way. And what I like to do is just focus on one habit at a time. So just focus on the one thing. What's the one thing that I can work on changing right now that's going to move me towards my goal? And as you master that one thing, then you work on the next thing. And that is going to keep progressing you to where you want to be ultimately. So that by the time you look back a couple of years from now, a lot of the habits that you used to have that maybe weren't serving you well are now healthy habits. And you've gotten a lot closer to your goal. And you're really going to look back and you're going to be transformed because you've done all these things that have progressively changed you into the person that you want to be. So just take it step by step, habit by habit, and you'll get to where you want to be.
I love it. Malaika, I love you. I am rooting for you. I'm cheering you on. And I'm going to drop in the show notes all the places that you can connect with her. Go check her out on Roku, YouTube, Instagram. Did you say you're on TikTok or no?
No.
Okay. You get off and you stayed off. Yeah. I think I've done, I think so. I don't know. I downloaded TikTok once and I was like, nope, not doing it.
Oh yeah. And also, I have set up, there is a code on my website that they can get 1 week free. There's a 1 week pass. They can get it for free if they just use the code FAVOR for listening today. So they can get that 1 week access to classes for free as well as on demand. So
thank you for that. Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes too. Oh, and you use the code FAVOR. I love that. Oh, well, I love you. Thank you so much for sharing your testimony. I could bring you back for a whole other episode on your other testimony. One day I will, but I knew that with the new year coming up and this health and fitness being such a big thing, that you were the perfect person to inspire people to get on track with Jesus. And thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.